Today I'm visiting Cramond village, which is formerly situated in the parish of Cramond on the outskirts of Edinburgh. There have been a human settlement here since the Mesolithic period, but the actual village is named from the Brittonic Keir, meaning a fort, which was based on the Roman fort that was built here to support the Roman troops on the Antonine Wall. We're looking at the River Cramond flowing into the Firth of Forth, and out in the estuary is Cramond Island, which has many Second World War fortifications. The island is now connected to the shoreline by a causeway, and the things you can see sticking up there are part of a submarine boom defence that was built in the Second World War. The parish of Cramond also now incorporates the villages of Davidson's Mains, Grantown, which is famous for its gasworks, and Wardie. You can also find Craigcrook Castle and Lorison Castle within the parish. We've now walked up the River Cramond to where it's bridged, and we're looking at the Cramond Brig, which was the main road from Edinburgh to South Queensferry. The bridge dates from around 1500 and is a boundary point between the former counties of Mid Lothian and West Lothian. It was rebuilt in 1617 and has had numerous repairs since then. It's now closed to traffic, but you can still walk and cycle across it. This is a site of the famous encounter between King James V of Scotland and Jock Howison. The king was well known for dressing in disguise so he could mix with his subjects, and one day when he was crossing the bridge he was attacked by a band of gypsies. Jock Howison, who lived on the lands of Bray Head, came to the king's assistance and between them they fought off the gypsies, and as a reward Jock Howison, who at the time didn't know he had saved his monarch, was granted the lands of Bray Head. However, it's been known that the Howisons have actually owned land here since the reign of James I. But it's a very picturesque spot, only broken with the noise of the traffic and the planes flying overhead to Edinburgh Airport. We're now at the focal point of the parish, Cramond Kirk. There's been a site of Christian worship here since the 6th century, and the church is built within the former fortifications of the Roman fort. Cramond Parish extends 6 miles east to west and 2 miles north to south. The tower dates from the 15th century, and the bell was forged in Holland, which was quite common at that time for Scottish Calvinist churches to have their church bells made in the Low Countries. The kirkyard itself has many interesting 17th and 18th century gravestones. The Romans left their legacy here, and as we can see there's a male cock pheasant here on the wall, which was introduced to Britain by the Romans. And here's an information panel showing the Roman fort next to the River Cramond and the important strategic point it was for the Roman army in Scotland. There's an old black and white photograph of the excavations during the 1950s and 60s. This is Cramond Tower, which dates from the 14th century and belonged to the bishops of Dunkeld. Later it was owned by the Ingalls family, and until about the 1960s it was a ruin all overgrown with ivy and undergrowth, but it was restored in the 1970s and today is now a family residence. As I mentioned at the start of the film, there's been a Mesolithic settlement discovered here. In 1995 archaeologists discovered stake holes, and the holes and pits were filled with hazelnut shells, which were an important source of food in the hunter-gatherer period. And the hazelnut shells were radiocarbon dated to around 10,500 years ago, between 8,630 BC and 8,250 BC. And at the time, this was the oldest evidence in Scotland for human settlement and marks the start of the Mesolithic period. This lasted until the arrival of farming during the Neolithic period around 4000 BC. So it was on this spot that the archaeologists found the hazelnut shells, but there's really little other evidence of any form of human habitation. During the Mesolithic, of course, the River Forth was sea level was much higher up, and this would originally have been a beach looking out there towards Cramond Island. There have been a lot of Mesolithic sites found in the Forth estuary, as far up as Cramond, sorry, not Cramond, but Grangemouth. Well, I'm back now beside the River Amond, and the roar in the background is from a weir. In the 18th century, during the Industrial Revolution, a lot of rivers in Scotland, the power was harnessed for mills. And along the banks of the River Amond, there were numerous mills which were used for iron forges and rolling mills. And dotted along the Amond, as with the Waterleaf, another river that flows through Edinburgh, are these numerous mills. In the mid-19th century, they were later converted into sawmills. However, iron was exported from here as far away as India. All that remains of either a former mill or warehouse. The River Amond isn't as polluted as it used to be, and it is possible to get permits to fish on the river. You catch brown trout and sea trout when they're in season. Cadell's Row still has the old houses that were used, I think, by the mill workers. When the mills obviously had the extensions added on, you can still see the original mill worker's house. Looking across now to the former ferryman's cottage. There used to be a ferry across the Amond up until about the year 2000. You used to be able to ring a bell on this side of the bank to alert the ferryman, and there'd be a little rowing boat that would come across the Amond and collect tourists, Sunday day trippers, and take them across to Dalmeny Estate, where you can walk along the shoreline as far as the Forth Bridge at South Queensferry. In 1997, the ferryman noticed carved stone sticking out of the mud of the river, and alerted the archaeologists, who, when the carving was retrieved, was of a lion with a man in its mouth. And this is believed to be a Roman tombstone, which was either dropped when it was being unloaded from a ship, or maybe deliberately cast into the River Amond. However, the carving was restored, and you can now see the Cramond lioness in the National Museum of Scotland. So I hope you've enjoyed your little introduction to Cramond village and the parish of Cramond. The story of Cramond can be explained in an exhibition by the Cramond Heritage Trust in the buildings overlooking the harbour.